10 sinister haunted house tales, spine-chilling true stories exposed to keep you awake at night. The air turned frigid in Maplewood as Halloween approached, the leaves swirling in bitter gusts, casting shadows that crossed the threshold of Sarah's quaint but unsettling home. She sensed at the moment her children, Mia and Ethan, began whispering of their new friend, someone who only came around at dusk. They giggled innocent, while dread wrapped around Sarah like a wet blanket. Could she shield them from the creeping nightmares born from fragments of a twisted town tradition? The unease gnawed at Sarah's mind, just as it did the diminishing daylight. Old legends rattled like distant thunder, tales of neighbors vanishing, swallowed whole by Maplewood's dark embrace every autumn. Her grandmother's diary, which she had discovered packed away in the attic earlier that week, revealed unsettling truths. Each brittle page spoke of long-lost residents, eerie occurrences, and the insidious traditions of the town, each disappearance like a twisted blight on a seemingly perfect community. As evening descended, whispers echoed through her home, sighing involuntarily as if something alive roamed among the shadows. Flickering lights cast eerie shapes on the walls, beneath which Sarah could swear she felt the weight of eyes watching from corners. It was subtle at first, a hardness in the air that gathered with each gust of wind. When her children spoke of their friend, laughter turned to icy panic in her chest. A vivid image swept through her mind, a figure lurking in the gloom, inviting them with promises that chilled her to her core. "Mom, can we show you our friend?" Mia's bright eyes glinted in the low light, but the warmth faded when Sarah noticed Ethan was pale, shivering as if touched by winter's breath. "Let us focus on the festival," she insisted, but unease trickled in, wrapping around her like a vine, squeezing tighter as days slipped into darkness. That evening, as carnival lights blinked enticingly beyond her windows, Sarah felt an urgent need to connect with her neighbors. With each cheerful smile and festive mask, an ever-thickening sense of dread clung to her skin. Mr. Caldwell approached her, his manicured facade scratched by an unsettling edge, dark, murky eyes boring into her. She recognized him, hauntingly, from the diary, a looming figure shadowing Maplewood's sinister dance. The flicker of recognition sent a jolt to her heart, pounding ferociously. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the festival lights flickered on the horizon, she felt the isolation grow heavier. Turn to the authorities, she thought desperately, as if that could unravel her terror. But when the officer smirked, brushing off her frantic pleas, it solidified a terrifying truth: she stood alone. Her community, once a refuge, had become a tight, suffocating web, weaving darkly around her heart. As the shadows lengthened, wrapping around her home and suffocating her trust, Sarah stood by the window, adrenaline rushing through her. She watched as her children basked in their friend's glow, a fleeting glimpse of something dreadful. Was it the town's traditions, the tales woven into the very fabric of Maplewood, that would drag her children into its abyss? She felt her resolve harden. If shadows danced, she would fight back. Terrifying whispers grew louder. Cold dread surged through her as she contemplated the dark forces entwined in her home. Who would save Mia and Ethan from the friend that greeted them at dusk? The night wore on, the festival sounds a faded echo as Sarah paced the kitchen, her pulse racing. Every flicker of the candles on the table seemed to mock her unease. Shadows stretched and writhed in ways that felt alive, whispering secrets only the darkness could understand. Mia and Ethan giggled from the living room, oblivious to the tightening grip of fear around their mother's heart. They were enchanted by their friend, yet the memory of Mr. Caldwell's eyes bored into her brain. Was he a villain disguised in neighborly warmth? What sinister role did he or others like him play in this town's dark timeline? Through the window, the carnival lights blinked enticingly, casting a glow on the neighborhood that now seemed sinister. There was something so hollow and unsettling about the laughter shifting with the wind, as if the very sounds held whispers of the ancestors who had vanished without a trace. "Time for bed," she called out, steel lacing her voice. Mia and Ethan tumbled into the kitchen, their small faces lit with mischief, tomorrow's costumes draped over their shoulders. "But Mom, we want to show you our friend," Mia insisted, bouncing on her toes. A bone-deep chill made Sarah hesitate. "I said no?" The command came out harsher than she intended, but the urgency in her gut pushed the words out. Ethan's smile faltered. "But he's nice, and he wants to see you." Dread twisted in Sarah's stomach like a vice. Images of the figure lurking in the shadows flashed through her mind. What if their friend was, in reality, the embodiment of the vanishing spirit that haunted Maplewood? She felt the walls close in, a deeply rooted fear sinking under her skin. "Mom!" Mia whined, her bright eyes dulled by confusion. "Go to bed now." The children exchanged glances, brows furrowed, as they trudged off, tales of laughter trailing behind until the door creaked shut. Alone, Sarah stumbled to the living room, the silence pressing down like a weight. Had she made a mistake dismissing their whimsical friend? Outside, the festival revelers shrieked with delight. Yet beneath their mirth, something felt wrong. The laughter held an edge, an invitation too enticing to resist, yet on the edge of malevolence. A soft tapping echoed from the window, pulling her gaze outside. A silhouette wavered against the glow of the carnival. Sarah squinted, her heart hammering in her chest. It was a child, her children's friend, his face obscured by shadow, but his form sending cold shadows across her yard. "Come out to play!" His voice rang like a chime, sweet and sickly. Instinctively, Sarah recoiled, tension building like a taut string. She moved closer to the window, hesitantly peeking between the curtains. The figure stood still, eyes glinting with an otherworldly light, swirling in the darkness. Desperation clawed at her throat. The children had to be protected. She had to sever whatever attraction lay in that stranger's presence. With trembling fingers, she grabbed her phone, ready to call for help, despite knowing no one would believe her. But before she could dial, darkness surged past the window, a blur of movement, fast and chaotic. "Mia! Ethan!" Sarah screamed, her voice strangled with panic. In a heartbeat, she bolted toward the bedroom, but the door slammed shut before she could reach it. She pressed her fingertips against the wood, her breath hitching as terror skittered down her spine. Then, laughter echoed sharp, cruel, too close to bear. In the shroud of night, she realized she was not the only one who feared the shadows of Maplewood. Whatever had haunted this town for generations was here, watching, waiting. And it had claimed her children. How far was she willing to go to uncover the truth? As dread seeped into her bones, a chilling thought gripped her. If everyone was in on it, who could she trust? She took a deep breath, feeling a cold resolve harden within. No matter the darkness, she had to fight back. What other secrets awaited in the depths of the cursed town? In that moment, the whispering shadows promised an answer, if she dared to seek it. But each heartbeat reminded her time was running out. Sarah pressed her ear to the door, listening intently. The laughter now surged, a rolling tide of delirium, reverberating against the walls. It felt like an unholy chorus, every giggle dripping with malicious glee. "Mia! Ethan!" She called again, urgency making her voice tremble, but no response came, just the echo of the laughter taunting her. Her pulse raced as she stepped away from the door, heart pounding against her ribcage like a frantic bird. The air felt thick, charged with an energy that made her skin crawl. She glanced down the hallway, shadows pooling in the corners, stretching and shifting as if they had a life of their own. "Stay calm, Sarah. Just stay calm," she muttered to herself, forcing her body to move. She hurried back to the living room, each step weighed down by dread. The flat screen flickered on the wall, devoid of sound, images playing out of sync with the chaos in her mind. She grabbed her purse, rummaging through it, fingers shaking until she fished out her flashlight. It felt like a flimsy weapon against the age-old horror consuming the town. She had to get outside, had to find a way to reach the carnival. What if the festivity held a key to understanding this strange alliance of laughter and shadows? The children were surely still at the center of the joyous noise, ensnared by the same enchantment that lured her, oblivious to the lurking danger. Suddenly, the front door swung open, the rush of cold air sending a shiver through her. She stepped back, heart racing anew, half expecting to find her children beaming with delight. Instead, the shadowed porch loomed empty. The night was oppressive, blanketed by a weighty silence which felt more menacing than the laughter. "Mommy!" A distant voice called then, and her heart leaped. It was Mia, an echo of innocence intertwined with something sinister. "Where are you?" Sarah shouted back, rushing out, the flashlight flickering wildly as she stumbled through the yard. As she turned, the carnival lights flickered in the distance, that haunting glow beckoning her. She could almost feel the vibrations of the music thrumming beneath her skin, each note a siren-esque call. "Help us, Mommy!" Mia's voice wafted through the air, soft but insistent. Sarah's throat tightened. Was it truly her daughter? Or a trap masked in childlike pleas? "I'm coming!" she cried, sprinting down the street, adrenaline pushing her past every rational thought. The festival loomed larger with each hurried step, lights swirling in a deranged dance. As she neared the edge of the carnival, a pair of figures appeared at the entrance, silhouetted against the gaudy display. From afar, they looked like children, but as she drew closer, unease settled deep in her gut. Their faces were too pale, like porcelain marionettes animated by unseen strings. The pale boy from before stood right beside them, eyes as bright and wild as an untamed flame. "Come play with us," he sang, the words rushing forth in a dissonant harmony that sent chills racing up Sarah's spine. "Where's Mia? Where's Ethan?" Her voice cracked, the sheer panic flooding her mind. The children turned toward her, grinning. Just then, the carnival music swelled, drowning out her thoughts, growing louder, more violent. Shadows slithered around their feet, whispers wrapping around her like tendrils of smoke, beckoning her to step deeper into the darkness. Then, with a flick of his wrist, the boy directed her gaze to a writhing mass behind the brightly colored tents, a deep, swirling fog, ominously beckoning her. "They're waiting for you," Sarah's breath caught. Somewhere in that fog lay the answers she sought, but also, perhaps, the very end. Did she dare enter this unknown, or would the darkness consume her as it had consumed those before? As her heart raced, no longer just a matter of truth but survival, she realized one thing: the whispers were rising, and whatever awaited her there had been hungry for far too long. Would she choose to follow them down this treacherous path, or find a way to shield her heart from the seductive embrace of despair? The pulse of the carnival music quickened as Sarah felt the weight of the fog pressing against her like icy fingers wrapping around her heart. The children's grins widened, revealing slightly too many teeth, a glimmer of something predatory lurking beneath their childlike facades. "Mommy! Help us!" Mia's voice floated again, sweet and sickening. Was it really her daughter, or just another layer in this monstrous illusion? Each second stretched, blending the real and unreal. "Walk away, Sarah. You don't need to do this," she told herself, but the words fell flat against the feverish temptations of the carnival glow. The air buzzed thick with anticipation, like an electrical storm before the downpour, an itch at the nape of her neck. "Come on, join us," the pale boy urged, his voice warping into something sharp. He beckoned, a gesture both inviting and menacing. "It's fun! You'll love it here." She hesitated. The shadows danced, shifting and writhing, pulling her thoughts into their chaotic swirl. A quick glance over her shoulder showed the darkened street behind her, silent, barren. There was no turning back now. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet a magnetic force drew her closer to the swirling fog. "Stay strong," she whispered, trying to rally her strength. Each step she took felt heavy, weighed down by desperation and fear. The laughter rose again, a chaotic symphony that pulled at her heartstrings like a perverse lullaby. "Mia! Ethan!" she cried, voice breaking, nearly lost beneath the intoxicating rhythm. "Help us!" The voices echoed, now an amalgam of many children, all calling her, pulling her toward the unknown. Worry morphed into terror, a fierce urgency blooming in her chest. Did they need saving, Or were they doomed to become part of the carnival themselves? A scream curled into her throat. She took a breath and stepped into the fog. Coldness enveloped her, a bittersweet chill that settled into her bones. The laughter transformed into whispers, swirling around her like a storm. "You're here! You're here!" The voices echoed, familiar yet unsettling. Suddenly she found herself before a towering tent, its entrance rippling with dark energy. Beneath it, shadows twisted, darting like frantic participants in a macabre dance. Sarah felt something press against her chest, urging her to step forward. Her heart roared in rebellion against the desire to enter, like a bass drum against silence. With a boldness she didn't fully understand, she stepped through the entryway. The air changed thick, suffocating. Inside, the atmosphere shimmered with distorted colors. Everything felt surreal. A funhouse mirror reflected her image, and she recoiled, realizing that what looked back was not her face. It was that of a child, frightened and lost. "Mia? Ethan?" she yelled, her voice cracking. "Where are you?" "Mommy!" They called in unison, their voices blending into a haunting harmony that tugged at her soul. The ground beneath her began to pulse, vibrating like a living thing. "Step into our world," the pale boy whispered again, the shadows behind him swirling in eager anticipation. Join us. Had she entered a trap? The thought ignited a fire in her stomach. She had to fight. But how? She fought back, gritting her teeth. "Not without my kids!" she shouted, the fervor in her voice flaring. "Where are you?" In response, the veil of shadows rippled, revealing glimpses of familiar shapes, figures trapped in the gloom, mouths moving in terrified whispers. Despair washed over her as the realization sank in. The laughter was no longer just a lure. It was a trap, a sinister melody pulling her deeper into the carnival nightmare. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, shadows stretching and stalking like wolves drawn to the scent of fear. "Join us," the boy chorused, now a creature of the fog. "You can't fight it." What choice was left? Run or stay? In that moment, the ground shook, a terrible force breaking loose. A scream bled from her lips, echoing into the chaos. But the whispers roared back. "It's too late." The ground split beneath her feet, dark tendrils reaching out as Sarah teetered on the edge of a gaping chasm. And then silence. What awaited in that silence? The answer loomed like a dark cloud, heavy and foreboding. Would it consume her whole, or was hope still hidden beneath the chaos? Questions flooded her mind as the carnival atmosphere shifted, any semblance of innocence crumbling. Could she save her children? Could she escape this trap woven so intricately around her heart? But something deep inside urged her forward into the darkness, whispering only one chilling thing: there's no turning back now. And then, she felt it, the true fear, the realization that the answers might cost her everything, including her children. She teetered on the brink, the ground a void of blackness beneath her. The shadows roared, flaring with a hunger that seemed to echo her own desperation. What lay below? Was it torment or salvation? "Mommy! Help us!" Their voices surged from the depths, twisting her heart into knots. The cries of her children spiraled around her, growing louder, more urgent. They needed her. She couldn't falter. But the chasm pulsed like a heartbeat, inviting her to step closer. "No!" Sarah screamed, her voice cutting through the chaos. She felt an overwhelming instinct to leap back, to retreat from the darkness that yearned for her. Yet, something inside her, a gut feeling mixed with primal fear, urged her on. The pale boy's laughter rang out, sickly sweet. "You're almost one of us," he taunted, floating just out of reach. His smile stretched wider, like an old bruise. Shadows coiled behind him, eager tendrils waiting to embrace. The air crackled, a suffocating pressure settling on her chest. "Stop! Just stop!" she shrieked, heart racing. The memories of Mia and Ethan flickered through her mind, their laughter, their warmth, the way they made everything feel right in her world. Where were they now? Why couldn't she see them? The ground quaked violently, an earthquake of dread. She stumbled, almost reaching for the frayed edges of the void, the allure of joining her children intoxicating. But something like instinct held her back. The whispers rose again, sweet and sinister. Join us, Sarah. They wrapped around her, pushing her into a tempest of emotions. Each voice carried a note of despair, a longing sound that felt like a siren's call. We're waiting for you, waiting? Or trapping? She gasped, a bead of cold sweat slipping down her spine. What if staying meant sealing their fates forever? The truth clawed at her, gnawing through her resolve. Was this unseen force bending her will, or was she willingly stepping into the dark without knowing? One breath, two, all the sounds collapsed. The carnival music faded to a ghostly hum. Sarah felt a presence stir behind her. A figure loomed, cloaked in shadow, faceless yet deeply familiar. Her pulse quickened. Are you here to take me? She rasped, words barely escaping her trembling lips. The figure stepped closer, revealing a patch of glimmering eyes beneath a shroud of darkness. It spoke, the voice cold as steel. You can't save them alone, Sarah. You need to embrace the darkness. Only then can you find them. Was this what they wanted? Her knees threatened to buckle as dread tightened its grip. What have you done to them? She breathed, feeling ill. They're free but tied, bound to the carnival as you will be. The figure waved a hand, revealing more shapes caught in strobe-like flashes of reality. Children trapped in a mirage, their eyes pleading. Let them go! She shouted, fury igniting inside. I want to let this nightmare claim them. Then come, the figure beckoned, the shadows swirling, merging into an abyss that pulled at her senses. But instinct kicked in, sharp and bright. No! She yelled, stepping back. She wouldn't let the darkness grab her. She turned to run, but the ground cracked wider, hungry. The whispers crescendoed, an army of lost souls echoing her torment. The walls of the tent shuddered, cracking under weight. Bottles clinked ominously, shadows darting. She raced deeper into the carnival, the fog chasing her like a pack of wolves. The laughter twisted into a wailing shriek. But would she find escape, or would she only fall further into the grip of despair? Every moment felt like fragile glass, ready to shatter. With her heart pounding like a war drum, she pressed forward, desperate to find her children. Would she break through this malevolent force? Or was it too late for hope? As she plunged into the maze of shadows, the darkness whispered once more, this time softer, more seductive. Stay with us, you don't want to leave. She halted, caught between the taunting whispers and the powerful need for her children, the truth veiled just beyond reach. Could she uncover it? Where was Mia and Ethan truly? The question loomed, heavy in the air, as the carnival closed in with a chilling melody, echoing in the fog. The shadows writhed, coiling like serpents around her. Sarah spun to face the laughter echoing behind her. The pale boy hovered, a grotesque grin stretching across his face. You can't escape, Sarah. We'll always be here. His voice was a slick whisper, as though coated in poison. She bit her lip, unable to hold back the rising panic. Where are my kids? Where's Mia and Ethan? Her voice broke, the desperation clawing at her throat. Why do you fight it? He asked, tilting his head, curious. They're happier here. You'll be happier too. No! They're my children! Her heart hammered in her chest, the edges of her vision blurring with dread. The boy laughed, the sound echoing in the suffocating darkness that surrounded her, wrapping her in tendrils of despair. You're too late, they're part of the carnival now. With a burst of adrenaline, Sarah turned and ran again. The ground beneath her feet roared with rage, dark tendrils reaching for her, trying to trip her, to pull her down into the blackness. She skidded past a booth adorned with tarnished mirrors that flickered with indistinct shapes, faces of children, twisted and screaming. Mom! A voice wailed from a nearby mirror, brittle and cracked. She paused, terror gripping her heart. Help us, Mommy! Mia's familiar voice, faint yet unmistakable, floated through the air, and she reached for the glass, her fingers grazing its surface. But the reflection twisted again, morphing into that pale boy's ghastly smile. Join her, Sarah, he crooned, his eyes glistening with malice. You could be so much more than just a mother in the dark. No. She yanked her hand back, shuddering as though burned. She could not succumb to this deception. This carnival thrived off despair, feeding on the love of families torn apart. As she dashed deeper into the chaos, the music grew louder, an upbeat cacophony that twisted into something sinister. Laughter mingled with cries for help, distorting the sound of joy into a discordant melody that frayed her nerves. Just ahead, a house of horrors loomed, its doorway gaping open like a mouth ready to devour. She hesitated but felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps there was a way to find Mia and Ethan within. Taking a deep breath, she crossed the threshold, and the air inside chilled her to the bone. Shadows danced on the walls, alive and hungry, while ghostly figures flitted past her. "Welcome, welcome!" a voice chimed, a sing-song melody that felt like icy fingers tracing her spine. An apparition flit into view, a gaunt woman dressed in tattered lace. "Join us for a show. The children love our games." Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the darkness was thick, closing in around her. From the far end of the room, a haunting silhouette caught her attention, a child standing alone, their back facing her. "Mia?" she whispered, hope surging. The figure turned slowly, the familiar shape almost too perfect, but something starkly wrong clung to the edges of the memory. The child's eyes glowed, framed by airless shadows. "Mommy, help us then!" A screech erupted through the air, sharp and jarring. The room quaked violently, shadows spinning wildly in a chaotic dance. "You shouldn't have come here!" the gaunt woman screamed, her face twisting into a hellish grin. In that moment, Sarah felt the walls close around her, tightening like a vice. This wasn't a haunted house, it was a trap, designed to ensnare her soul. With every ounce of strength, she tore through the crowd of wailing shadows, searching for her children, but the voices of the trapped echoed louder than her thoughts. "Join us, you can't save them." Her mind raced with the impossibility of it. Could she really save them, or would this carnival consume her completely? As she plunged deeper into the nightmare, the whispers morphed into a single voice, their voices, speaking in unison, enticing, terrifying. "Let it all go, Sarah. Just give in." The chaos swirled around her, and amidst the darkness, her children's cries faded into the haunting melody that lured souls to their doom. With one last push against the darkness, she lunged forward, seeking the truth hidden behind the veil. But as she did, the omnipresent shadows clapped together, threatening to drown out her desperate pleas. "It's too late!" echoed through the chaos, a mocking chorus that sent shivers crawling down her spine. At the precipice of her choice, Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift once more, and she couldn't tell if she was being drawn to her children or swallowed by darkness. Would the truth set her free or bury her where hope dared not tread? The shadows pressed closer, creeping along the walls, their whispered taunts clawing at Sarah's sanity. She fought against the oppressive weight, eyes darting between forms that flitted and hovered like spirits within the depths of a waking nightmare. "Mia! Ethan!" she screamed, her voice rising above the cacophony of laughter and wails. Light flashed momentarily, an explosion of color against the gray, revealing the grotesque fairground. She caught sight of a nearby ride, its wooden cart swaying wildly, lit by flickering bulbs that swung to no rhythm, casting unsettling shadows. With a racing heart, she raced toward it, hoping for a path, an escape, or even a sign. "This way!" a voice broke through the din. It was a woman, draped in a gown so tattered it looked like it had survived a storm of despair. Her eyes held a wild glint. "Follow me!" "No!" shouted the pale boy, suddenly looming at Sarah's side. He grinned widely, revealing teeth jagged like broken glass. "You can't trust her. This is my domain." The woman's face soured at the sight of the boy. "Ignore him, dear. He's nothing but a trickster. He feeds on your fear. Mommy, help us!" The familiar voices of Mia and Ethan echoed like a siren's call, bouncing off the walls. Sarah's heart sank. No matter where she turned, the children were woven into the fabric of this haunted carnival, and the deeper she went, the harder it became to distinguish reality from nightmare. In that moment of indecision, the gaunt woman stepped forward, her skeletal hand grasping at Sarah's wrist. "You have to make a choice. We're running out of time." Glimmers of hope threatened to flicker out, drowned by despair. She felt the weight of choice pressing down, wrestling with the shadows swirling around her. The screams of children blended with the raucous laughter of twisted souls, until they formed a single, pulsating echo that played like a wretched symphony, panic-crested as splintered images of her children flashed through her mind. Their faces smiling, innocent, begging for her. Another scream pierced through, sharper than the others. A girl flashed in her mind, tangled hair, wide eyes, a mere reflection of what Mia could become if she remained trapped. No! The boy laughed, an ugly sound that reverberated around her. They're happier here, Sarah. Don't you understand? You can join them. All it takes is one little sacrifice. Teeth gnashing, Sarah ripped her hand from the woman's grasp, stumbling back into the chaos. The ground shivered violently as if in agreement with the boy's words, playing tricks on her senses. Could it be? Would leaving with him mean she would be free from this hell? But wasn't that exactly what they wanted? Her surrender? No! She cried, shaking her head. I'll find them. I'll save them. Surging forward, she braced herself against the darkness, her heart a wild drum in her chest. A path had to exist, a way to the children. She just needed to see through the veil. But as she raced deeper into the house, the laughter grew louder, mockingly vibrant, drowning out her will. Let go, Sarah teased. They're at peace here. Just let the darkness embrace you. Fingers of shadow grasped at her limbs, cold and unyielding, pulling her down. Every ounce of willpower focused on pushing back, yet the icy grip clawed at her resolve, seeking to feed on her fear. With a frantic glance, her breath caught. A glimmer caught her eye, a door, half ajar, glowing with a flickering light. That's it! She whispered to herself, desperation fueling her movements. She lunged toward it, the air crackling with suspense, the shadows erupting into howls of fury. You can't leave! They screamed in unison, a cacophony of outrage that threatened to pull her back. But she was not going to let them win. Her hand clasped the cold doorknob, metal, slick and cold as ice. She twisted, heart racing, praying it would lead to Mia and Ethan. Suddenly, the world swayed. A sudden pop burst through the air, an explosion of colors cascading down, revealing ghostly faces in the smoke. Laughter turned to screams. She shoved the door wide, crossing the threshold just as the shadows raged behind her. What's happening? She gasped, stepping into a void, surrounded by swirling lights and shapes. But in the distance, through the chaos, she heard them, her children, their cries pure and real, cutting through the illusion. Mommy! As the door slammed shut behind her, the cacophony faded, but so did the light. Darkness slid around her, suffocating, wrapping her in its silk-like grip. Were Mia and Ethan really there? Or had she just stepped into a new nightmare? With icy clawing fingers of dread tightening around her heart, Sarah stepped further into the unknown, knowing full well that this fight had only just begun. The darkness enveloped Sarah like a thick fog, pressing against her until she could hardly breathe. She squinted, grasping for any hint of light among the swirling shadows. The cries still echoed, but they seemed distant now, fading in and out like a radio signal distorted by static. Mia! Ethan! Her plea hung in the air, swallowed by the insatiable night. Just steps ahead, an eerie glow pulsed, inviting and treacherous. Cautiously she moved toward it, the damp ground squelching beneath her feet. The shadows danced around her, elongated fingers brushing against her skin, icy cold. Each touch sent jolts of fear racing through her veins. Get off me! She shrieked, swatting at the darkness, but the laughter returned, echoing like sinister music that played just for her. There, just beyond the wretched veil of black, the light transformed into a flickering image, a carnival attraction. She realized a funhouse. Mommy, help! The cries morphed into a frantic chorus, raw and full of terror. Sarah's heart clenched as she recognized the voices. There was no doubt they belonged to her children. Please, the word escaped her lips in a hoarse whisper. The thought of turning back clawed at her mind, but she forced herself to step closer to the swirling doorway, framed in sickly yellow light. Each breath became sharper as she pushed through, heart hammering, pulse racing. I can't lose them, I won't. Inside the funhouse, Mirrors lined the walls, each reflecting warped images of her as she stumbled through, distorting her fears into grotesque parodies. Smiles twisted like claws, mocking her desperation. The corridor twisted and turned, corridors stretching endlessly, each direction vying for her attention. She could feel it, the stillness of waiting shadows lurking just out of reach, plotting, starving for her moment of weakness. "Mommy!" They were near, so close she could taste the salt of their tears on her tongue. She charged deeper into the maze, not caring if the distortions lunged for her sanity, not allowing them to claim her. The glimmer of hope glowed faintly, a beacon in the dark. It was there, just around the next corner. They were there. Suddenly, the laughter crescendoed, erupting into guttural howls, each note clawing at her resolve. Shadows surged forward, relentless, determined to drag her away from her children's cries. Sarah stumbled, heart racing faster than her thoughts could keep up. "Let go!" she screamed, as icy hands circled her ankles. "Get away from me!" Down she went, tumbling to the ground, the world shifting beneath her like sand. She struggled against the darkness, clawing with every ounce of strength she had. "Your mistake was believing you could hide from me," the boy's voice taunted, echoing like an old record. A cruel reminder that escape may be an impossible dream. But just as despair threatened to close in, she caught another glimpse of the light. It flickered promisingly, brightening as though sensing her need. There's a way out. Every instinct screamed at her to rise, to reach for that hope tethered in the distance. With one final surge of strength, Sarah pulled herself up, fighting against the weight of shadows pressing down. She lunged anew, driven by the cries of her children piercing through the haze, guiding her. "Mommy!" A sob, desperate and real. "Hold on, I'm coming!" She propelled forward, the light cracking open before her like thin ice breaking, and then, as she crashed through the veil of dark, the world exploded into radiant color. The funhouse door flung wide, revealing a circus scene bustling with laughter and joy. Bright banners waved in the intoxicating air, children danced, and on the far side, two figures stood, Mia and Ethan, their faces alight with happiness. With a swell of desperation, Sarah rushed forward, arms outstretched, but as she drew closer, everything shifted. The laughter turned into a twisted echo, the joy morphing into something disconcerting. They turned to her, smiles stretching wider than humanly possible. "Mommy?" Mia's voice was far too sweet, thick with an undercurrent of darkness. "Come play with us," chimed Ethan, eyes glimmering with an unsettling joy. She froze, heart pounding, an alarm ringing in her mind. "What is this?" she whispered, fear wrapping around her throat. As she hesitated, the ground shuddered beneath her, and the laughter swirled like a tempest. Something sinister was gathering, and as they beckoned her closer, the true nightmare unfolded. What had she stepped into? Had she found her children or something much darker? The laughter of innocence morphed into taunts, the vibrant colors blurring, spilling into dark roots that threatened to pull her under. As the shadows whispered sweetly, "Join us, Sarah," she realized she had a choice once more. And deeper still, another chilling thought gripped her: what if this blissful moment was just the beginning of her true nightmare? The laughter echoed like a fading siren's song, with a seductive pulse that throbbed in Sarah's ears. Panic welled inside her, heavy and unyielding. They looked like Mia and Ethan, but something was terribly wrong. Their smiles were too wide, almost grotesque. "Mommy? Come join the fun!" The way they said it felt unnatural. Each word seemed drenched in malice, acting as chains tethering her to a nightmarish scene. "No!" Sarah gasped, heart racing as the vibrant colors around her dimmed, twisting into shades that reminded her of decay and despair. She stumbled back, terror gripping her throat like a vice, pulling her into the depths of a swirling abyss. As she turned to escape, the cheerful music warped into a discordant cacophony, ripping through the joyous facade. The ground beneath her shifted, becoming a viscous mire intent on dragging her down. Shadows erupted, reaching up with fingers like fractured black glass, scratching at her sides. "You can't leave, Sarah! Stay with us!" It hissed, their collective voice echoing all around her. Desperation clawed at her throat. She slammed into the closest mirror, its surface rippling like water, the reflection showing a twisted version of herself, eyes wide with fear, mouth stretched into a silent scream. Behind her, the carnival atmosphere warped further. Bright lights flickered angrily, bathing the scene in a strobe-like frenzy. The air felt thick, heavy with the scent of decay and laughter that turned sour. But what gripped her with the most terror was the lingering thought that maybe Mia and Ethan, those figures drawing her in, were just shadows of the real children she desperately sought. A memory? A trap? Come back, Mommy! They laughed, but the sound was far too sharp, too jagged. The moment stretched endlessly as she faced that choice anew, the deceitful pull of false joy or the blanketing darkness that promised escape but threatened to consume her whole. Enough! Fueled by a sudden rush of fierce determination, she hurled herself into the depths of the maze. Each footfall splashed in the murky darkness, sending ripples of dread through her. The shadows hissed behind her, slinking like predators in the night. "Mommy, you can't run from us," it was Mia's voice, but it twisted into something sinister. Sarah shook her head, trying to drown it out. She pressed on, ignoring the whispers that clawed at her sanity. Somewhere deep in the maze, she sensed an exit, a flicker of genuine light, a promise of safety. With every curve and twist of the hall, reality warped. The mirrors multiplied, taunting her with 100 distorted reflections. Each one mirrored her fear of failure as a mother, lost and helpless. As she stumbled onward, it felt like she was walking through a living nightmare, her children's laughter moving further away, dimming like a fading star. "Mommy!" a voice cried again, but then it shifted, echoing with layers of despair. "Help us!" "No!" It was now an amalgamation of the voices she knew, twisted by the darkness. Anxiety spiked, every nerve within her screamed she had to choose. But how could she when the very essence of love was twisted into a weapon against her? Just ahead, she caught a glimpse of an opening, a definitive barrier at the end of the gloom. It glimmered, surrounded by an aura of hope. But as she approached, that radiant light began to flicker, wavering like dying embers. "Don't leave us, Mommy!" they chorused, their voices now united in a symphony of dread. The air turned frigid, the shadows looming menacingly, thick and dark as they whispered, "You belong to us now." Breath hitching, Sarah lunged toward the light. Would it blind her or save her? As she neared the threshold, the vibrations of laughter crescendoed into shrieks, the shadows plunging forward with a thirst for her soul. Would she find a way back to her children or become just another reflection in this malevolent funhouse? She crossed the threshold, heart in her throat, and in that instant, the world shifted yet again. Who would emerge on the other side? What terror awaited her there? As Sarah crossed the threshold into the light, it enveloped her like a warm embrace, momentarily washing away the despair and fear that had clung so tightly. The cacophony of shadows and laughter faded into a muted hum, leaving her breathless. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt hope flicker within her chest. But that hope came with a gnawing dread. Could this truly be real? "Mia! Ethan!" she called out, heart racing. The world around her shifted, colors sparkling and swirling at the edges. Suddenly, she found herself standing on a bright carnival street, bathed in golden sunlight and filled with laughter that tastefully echoed the shivers of childhood joy. Warmth enveloped her skin, and she blinked against the brightness. Ahead, a familiar sight caught her eye, a stand overflowing with cotton candy, the sweet scent reminiscent of fair days gone by. And there, beneath a colorful awning, were Mia and Ethan. They waved, eagerly bouncing on their toes, their faces beaming with innocence. "Mommy! Over here!" Mia squealed, her arms outstretched. But even as the joy swelled in Sarah's chest, darkness whispered through the corners of her mind. She hesitated. It felt too good to be true. The shadows of doubt lingered, tugging at her heart, reminding her of the treacherous illusion she had just escaped. "Stay away from the shadows." A voice rang through her thoughts, a warning deep and instinctual. Was this the true carnival, or merely a vivid trap birthed from despair? "Come on, Mommy! We're safe here!" Ethan grinned, continuously beckoning her toward them. In that moment, as she fought the alluring pull of her children's laughter, The ground beneath her feet trembled. The bright facade of the carnival flickered, revealing fleeting glimpses of the sinister shadows bubbling just beneath the surface. The realization sank in, were they still trapped in the funhouse, or had she found a way to truly rescue them? As her heart raced, Sarah locked eyes with the children. "Are you really here?" she breathed, edged in panic. "Are you safe?" With sudden resolve, she took a step closer, ready to embrace her children. But an ice-cold grip enveloped her heart. "Help us!" they cried again, but this time, she felt the weight of desperation twisting with the sweetness. Was it really them? Or deception lurking behind their playful gazes? "No!" she shouted, shaking her head clear. "I will not lose you again." With one more push, she tapped into every fiber of her being, the fierce love rippling through her as she fought against the betrayals of darkness. "I will find you!" she screamed, voice shattering through the deception. And just like that, the carnival fell silent. The laughter stilled, leaving only the echo of her heart pounding in her chest. In that terrifying stillness, the children froze, their features shifting into something unfamiliar. The brightness began to warp, colors twisting back into shadows. "You're too late," Sarah the pale boy materialized, his grin cruel and wide. "They've already joined us. Forever. Nothing you do can change that." "No!" she howled, every piece of her wanting to sink into the depths of despair as the shadows lunged, dragging her children into the twisted carnival once more. "No!" But this time, something ignited within her, a fierce, unbreakable bond. "I will find them!" she yelled defiantly. Suddenly, in the eye of the storm, she felt clarity surge. Her love could sever the web of darkness trying to ensnare her family. The air around her thickened with energy as Sarah pushed against the shadows. "You don't own me! You don't own them!" Fear melted into determination as tendrils of light flared from within her, illuminating the veil before her. She charged forward, gripping the edges of fabric that concealed the visions of her children. The shadows screamed, shrieking in rage as she tunneled deeper and deeper into drowned memories and scattered laughter. The carnival lights burst around her like fireworks, illuminating chaotic faces twisted in terror, remnants of other families who had lost their way. In the center of the whirl, Sarah spotted them, their figures suspended in a dance of shadows, Mia and Ethan glowing faintly, their loosing laughter twisting in nervous delight. "Mommy!" they sang, their voices now real amidst the chaos, clinging desperately to her. Sarah surged forward, arms outstretched. "I'm coming!" Every heartbeat mirrored the relentless hope swelling within her. "Hold on to my voice. I won't leave you!" And in that moment, they connected, an electric charge pulsing through her, igniting wild light that chased away the darkness. The carnival shook, releasing its grip as Sarah pulled her children through the veil, nothing but the bond of love tethering them together. As the shadows screamed their last, reality shifted. Light erupted around them, fierce and blinding, and Sarah felt them lift, shooting through the darkness rapidly. The cacophony of laughter turned to silence, and in a heartbeat, they broke through, landing in the crisp air of an autumn night, the carnival reduced to whispers behind them. Mia and Ethan tumbled forward, bursting with laughter as they found themselves in their mother's arms, eyes bright with amazement, the magic of the night undone. "Mommy! We're home!" they exclaimed, breathless. Sarah wept, a torrent of relief washing over her as she held them tight. "You're safe. You're really safe." Just the weight of her children in her arms reminded her of the battle fought, the darkness they had conquered together. Together they stepped away from the horrors, leaving the echoes of the twisted carnival behind. The moon rose high, casting a soft glow over Maplewood as they walked toward home, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next, the shadows finally receding. They were alive and together, a family bound by love. And that was the light that pierced the darkness, a warmth wrapped in hope that they would carry forward. Sarah knew the road ahead would not be easy, but they would face it together, forever unbroken. And as she looked ahead at the night sky, she felt the carnival's grip dissolve into a mere memory, never to ensnare them again. Now, with sameness ushered in an era of peace, don't forget to hold on to the brightness of tomorrow, allowing courage to echo through darkness. You need to subscribe now to find your way through more thrilling stories that could keep you awake at night. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the community thriving. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What are your favorite parts? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience the thrill of finding their light in the darkness.